Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be digging into another fascinating topic.
Absolutely. Today, we're plunging into quite an ancient tale. It's from a text called Dvesahāyakabhikkhuvatthu.
Right, often just called the story of the two monk friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this isn't just, some quaint old story. It's really profound. It tackles this core question. What does it mean to be knowledgeable versus, well, truly wise?
A classic distinction, but this story gives it such a sharp focus.
It really does. Is mastery about just piling up information? Or is it something deeper understanding, applying, letting it change you?
That's the crux of it.
So our mission, as always, is to kind of unpack this, pull out the key insights for you.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture Jetavana, that famous monastery. The Buddha himself is there.
A very significant setting.
And the story starts with these two young guys from Savatthi, friends. They're drawn to the monastery, really captivated by the Buddha's teachings.
So they both decide to ordain.
They do. They renounce their worldly lives, become monks,
A huge step.
and after 5 years studying under their teachers, they go to the Buddha. They want guidance, on what to do next.
Okay.
And this is where their paths really fork quite dramatically.
Right. And what's fascinating here is the choice the Buddha presents. Not just one way.
No.
He gives them two distinct approaches. There's the ganthadhura, that's the path of study, mastering the scriptures, really knowing the texts inside out.
Okay, the scholarly path.
Exactly. And then there's the vipassanā, that's the path of insight, meditation, direct realization, aiming straight for liberation.
Wow, so two very different focuses right from the start.
A foundational choice, really.
So the first friend, let's call him the insight monk for clarity. He says, well, he ordained a bit later in life. And he feels he just can't master all those scriptures. It's too much.
Understandable. The canon is vast.
So he chooses the vipassanā, the insight path. And he really dedicates himself, puts in the work, strives hard, and amazingly, quite quickly actually, he attains arahantship.
Full enlightenment. That's incredible.
Yeah. And he also gains this analytical knowledge by sampidahi, a deep, intuitive understanding.
So genuine realization through practice.
Right. Now, the second friend, our scholar monk, he goes the other way. He chooses ganthadhura.
The path of study.
And boy, does he excel. He gradually learns the entire Tipitaka.
The whole canon. That's monumental.
Isn't it? A huge feat of memory and intellect. He becomes famous, renowned, travels everywhere, preaching.
Reciting the verses melodiously, the text says. Sarabanya Bhakati.
Exactly. He said this beautiful voice. He ends up teaching 500 monks himself, becomes a head teacher for 18 big communities.
So by all external measures, a massive success. Hugely respected.
Definitely. But here's where, the human drama starts to creep in. It gets really interesting.
Okay.
So other monks, they get meditation topics from the Buddha, right? And they often go to the insight monk for practical guidance.
Because he's got the direct experience.
Precisely. They follow his advice, meditate, and many of them also reach arahantship.
Wow, so his guidance is clearly effective.
Very. And after they become enlightened, these monks go back to the insight monk to pay respects. Then they say, we'd like to go see the Buddha now. And the insight monk, showing real humility, sends them off with a specific message for his old friend, the scholar monk.
Oh.
What's the message?
He tells them, go, tell him, our teacher bows to you.
Sending respect to his learned friend.
Initially, the scholar monk just sort of tolerates it.
Right.
But monk after monk comes, all enlightened, all repeating the same phrase.
I can see where this might be going. It starts to grate on him.
Exactly. He gets irritated, starts demanding, who is this teacher they keep talking about?
Even though he knows it's his friend.
Well, when they tell him, your friend, the monk, his reaction becomes, well, pretty disdainful.
Really? How so?
He starts scoffing, asking things like, what did you really learn from him? Did he teach you a major scripture collection, like the Digha or one of the three Piyakas? Questioning the depth of the teaching.
Implying that real knowledge only comes from the texts he himself has mastered.
Pretty much. His scorn really grows. He starts openly dismissing the insight monk.
Saying what?
Things like, he probably doesn't even know a simple 4-line verse. He just ran off to the forest right after ordaining, wears rags. How did he get so many disciples?
Ouch. That's quite dismissive.
And he finishes by saying, when he comes here, I am definitely going to question him.
Wow. So the intellectual pride is really kicking in. He feels threatened or maybe just superior.
It seems that way, doesn't it? It really makes you think about that edge between knowledge and arrogance.
Absolutely. This is a critical moment. It shows how easily, intellectual achievement, if it's not grounded in humility or personal development, can curdle into ego.
Yeah.
He's built his identity around being the one who knows the texts. And here's his friend, achieving the goal of the text, seemingly without that same level of scriptural mastery.
It challenges his whole framework.
Precisely. And his reaction isn't just slight irritation, it's showing a deep-seated ego that's actually blinding him.
Yeah.
That's a key insight right there. Knowledge alone, without practice and humility, can build walls.
So the inevitable happens. The day comes. The insight monk arrives to visit the Buddha.
The confrontation.
Well, first he does the proper things. Respectfully leaves his bowl and robe with the scholar monk, goes to see the Buddha, pays respects to the 80 great elders, standard procedure.
Okay.
Then he returns to his friend's place, and the scholar monk is ready. He immediately sets up a seat for the insight monk, sits down himself, clearly gearing up for that interrogation he planned.
The tension must be palpable.
But then something unexpected happens.
The Buddha intervenes.
Exactly. The text says the Buddha, acting out of compassion, understanding that the scholar monk's disrespect towards an enlightened being could have really bad consequences for him.
Ah, the karmic implications.
Right. So the Buddha just appears, as if he's just doing his rounds, checking on the monks, and he sits down on the special Buddha seat that had been prepared, right there between them.
Wow. A divine, or at least highly timely, intervention.
You could say that. And then the Buddha basically gives them a pop quiz, a spiritual pop quiz.
Okay, what does he ask?
He starts with the scholar monk, asks him about the jhanas, these deep states of meditation, the first jhana, then the next 7, even the formless states.
Core meditative attainments.
Right. But the scholar monk, despite knowing all the scriptures about them, he can't answer. Not a single question about the actual experience.
Silence. Interesting.
Then the Buddha turns to the insight monk, asks him the exact same questions.
Oh.
The insight monk answers perfectly, without hesitation, clearly speaking from direct personal experience.
Ah, so the difference is stark. Knowing about something versus knowing it directly.
Precisely. The scholar monk's knowledge was theoretical, abstract. The insight monk's was lived, embodied.
That silence from the scholar monk speaks volumes, doesn't it? It shows the gap the Buddha was trying to highlight.
Absolutely. And the quiz isn't over. The Buddha then asks the scholar monk about the path of stream entry, that first big step towards liberation.
Another foundational concept.
Again, the scholar monk is silent. But when the Buddha asks the insight monk, who the text now respectfully calls the ganthadhura, the enlightened elder,
Acknowledging his attainment.
yes, he answers perfectly, clearly, precisely.
Wow.
And this pattern just repeats. The Buddha asks about the next paths. Once returning, non-returning, Arahantship. Each time. Scholar monk, silence. Insight monk, perfect answer.
It's a systematic dismantling of the idea that scriptural knowledge alone equals realization.
Completely. And after the insight monk answers the final question about Arahantship, the Buddha praises him 4 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Well done. Well done. A powerful affirmation.
And get this, it wasn't just the Buddha. The text says all the beings, from the earth deities right up to the highest Brahma worlds, devas, nagas, supanters, they all join in, echoing the Buddha's praise.
A cosmic round of applause.
Basically, yeah. Talk about validation.
It's incredibly dramatic. The universe itself affirming the value of that embodied wisdom over the merely intellectual kind. True validation comes from realization, not just academic prowess.
So naturally, the scholar monks, students, and fellow monks are, well, they're not happy.
They don't get it.
Not at all. They start murmuring, complaining amongst themselves. What's the Buddha done here? He praised this ignorant elder 4 times, but not one word of praise for our teacher, the one who knows all the scriptures, leads 500 monks.
They're stuck on the external markers of success, the knowledge, the following. They completely miss the point of the quiz.
Totally. They're confused and probably feeling a bit defensive of their teacher.
Understandable, but misguided. So how does the Buddha respond to their complaints?
This is where he offers this brilliant analogy. Timeless, really. He hears their murmuring and explains his actions.
Okay.
He says, look, your teacher. He's like a cowherd.
A cowherd?
Yeah. He guards the cows for wages. Counts them in the morning, takes them out, brings them back in the evening, hands them over to the owners. He gets his daily pay.
Okay, so he manages the cows.
But, the Buddha says, he doesn't get to enjoy the 5 products of the cow whenever he likes. You know, milk, curd, butter, ghee, whey. Those belong to the owners.
Ah, I see the analogy forming. The cows are the scriptures.
Exactly. And the products are the fruits of spiritual practice.
Liberation, insight, peace, the real benefit.
Right. So the Buddha continues, but my son, and he's referring to the insight monk here, he is like an owner. He gets to enjoy those 5 cow products whenever he pleases.
Wow. That's sharp. So the scholar monk manages the knowledge for others, gets the wage of respect and reputation, maybe?
Yeah.
But he doesn't personally get the deep, nourishing benefits. The insight monk, however, having done the inner work, owns the results. He enjoys the fruits directly.
It's such a powerful way to frame it. The difference between stewardship of knowledge and the direct experience of wisdom.
Absolutely. A really core teaching encapsulated in that simple image.
And to really drive the point home, the Buddha then recites 2 verses, short, pithy, summing it all up.
Let's hear them.
Okay, the first one is aimed squarely at the scholar monk's situation. Though one recites many scriptures, Sahita, meaning the Tipitaka,
The whole body of texts.
if one is negligent pamato and does not act accordingly, like a cowherd counting others' cows, one does not partake of the fruits of spiritual life, samanyasa.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Negligent here. It doesn't just mean lazy, does it?
No, the commentary clarifies. Pamato means negligent in terms of mental cultivation. Even if you know a lot, if you aren't actively practicing, meditating, reflecting on things like impermanence,
If you're not doing the inner work that leads to insight,
then you're considered negligent in this context. It's not about morality, but about failing to apply the knowledge for liberation.
so you're just counting the owner's cows. You know how many there are, maybe even their names, but the milk, the real nourishment, that goes to those who actually practice based on the teachings. They become the owners.
Exactly. Now, the second verse highlights the insight monk's path. Though one recites little scripture, maybe just a small part the text suggests,
It doesn't have to be the whole canon,
if one practices according to the Dharma Dhammasa Hoti Anuttamakari
meaning they live it, they embody it.
and abandons desire, hatred, and delusion, with right understanding and a perfectly liberated mind, not clinging to this world or the next.
So achieving the actual goal.
Such one partakes of the fruits of spiritual life.
So even with less theoretical knowledge, if you truly practice, understand the meaning, purify your mind, abandon the defilements.
You get the cow products. You attain arahantship, the ultimate fruit. You are the true owner of the benefits.
It beautifully contrasts the two approaches and their outcomes. Quality of practice over sheer quantity of knowledge.
Absolutely. And the effect of these verses and the whole encounter.
What happened to the crowd?
The text says many listeners right then and there attained stream entry.
Wow. That first irreversible step onto the path.
Yeah. So the teaching was clearly powerful and deeply beneficial for everyone who was there to witness it.
A profound lesson delivered effectively.
So, reflecting on this whole story, this deep dive into the 2 monk friends, it gives us so much to think about, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not really saying study is bad, is it?
No, not at all. The scholar monk's achievement was incredible in its own right. It's more about the purpose, the application of the knowledge.
Right. Is the goal just to accumulate facts, to be the expert, the cowherd? Or is it to use that knowledge, however much or little we have, to fundamentally transform ourselves, to become the owner?
That's the core question it throws back at us.
This ancient story is just so relevant. It forces us to look at our own lives, our own pursuits, whether it's work, hobbies, personal growth. What cow products are we actually seeking? Are we just gathering information, counting sources, maybe impressing others? Or are we genuinely trying to internalize it, apply it, let it change how we think and live, to truly own the wisdom?
Are we the cowherd or the owner in our own lives?
It's a challenging question.
A very challenging but necessary one, I think.
Well, we hope this exploration encourages you, our listeners, to reflect on your own journey with knowledge and wisdom. What does it mean for you to move beyond just knowing towards truly understanding and embodying?
Food for thought.
Definitely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep growing.